so you guys can talk, get ready, all of that.
Here.
And
Live.
Good evening, everybody,
Woo!
and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Welcome to your favorite SafeWord crew. As always, SafeWord is a platform for teaching, educating, and opening the eyes of our audience to the world of kink, BDSM, and relationships. I am your host, Mr. Kane Marcos.
And I am your other host, Miss Aurora Storm.
And I'm your co-host, Miss Sasha Venture.
So, if you watched our last video, then you saw some of the differences between kinks and fetishes, right? Yes, there is a difference, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But if you need to reach out to us, contact us, want to know where our Patreon is, want to just reach out and say hello, all of the links to that and that video will be in the description box below.
And while you're here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our educational content around kink, BDSM, and relationships.
All right. So first and foremost, I think that we need to say hi to our A1 since day one. He reps with us on all freaking videos. He follows us on all social media pages. He shouts us out, watches every video, watches every live, comments below. So he gets a shout out every single live. So crew, can we say hello to our favorite fan? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
What up, Roy?
I love how Sasha's frozen, but she's frozen with like a heart, just like, hi, I love
He
you.
always gets the best pauses.
Right?
It's still frozen?
Nope, you're moving now.
Am I still frozen?
It's glitchy.
Okay.
It's really glitchy. Okay, so this is SafeWord. And here on SafeWord, we have a SafeWord of the day. We use this SafeWord to stop, halt, and completely put a pause on all topic of conversation. So, crew, would we like to let everybody know what the safe word of the day is? If you don't know, it's right here on the board. Ready? 1,
Yeah.
2, 3.
Necessary.
It's necessary. All right. So here at SafeWord, we use Zoom, and sometimes Zoom has audio issues. Imagine that. So if you are saying the safe word of the day and nobody is shutting the up, then we throw up a symbol here. Crew, we'd like to show everybody what that is. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cacao. Boom. So throw that symbol up if no one is stopping when you are saying the safe word of the day, but make sure you say the safe word of the day so everybody knows what it is, which is necessary. All right, Mr. K. Marcos, do we have Sasha? She went her whistle. There we go. All right.
Perfect. Yes, we do. And as usual, I always brought some juicy topics for us tonight. Something that I think is going to get our gears going, something that's going to open up some conversation. So let's start off with something that might be some, honestly, it is good news. So let's jump right into it. First of all, do you ladies know what stealthing is?
Stealthing outside of like spy stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Or combat? No.
Combat? It's not combat or like spy stuff. No, I guess yeah. No.
All right. So stealthing is important because earlier this month, California passed a law that made the practice illegal. So it's generally not something good. And it isn't. So stealthing is when, let's say, a gentleman who is soliciting the services of a, special person. We all know what I mean.
Okay.
So of course, they're going to use protection, right?
Okay.
So stealthing is when that gentleman, unbeknownst to his partner, removes the protection in the middle without informing the other person. So this is dangerous for a couple of reasons. I mean, it promotes the transmission of STDs, and it can also result in unwanted pregnancy. So prior to this law being passed, I guess this was happening a lot. And so I'm honestly surprised that I haven't heard more about it and that nobody else is more aware of it. But it's actually been happening quite a lot. They say that over 12% of women, so 1 in every 10, between the ages of 21 and 30 have had experiences with this in one way or another. So it's not generally, specific towards the scenario that I mentioned earlier. It can happen in a committed relationship. It can happen in a one-night stand. It's just, when you're using protection and that gentleman just goes ahead and decides, nope, feels better without it. And
yeah, that's a no.
and tosses that
Negative
away
ghost
without
rider.
telling his partner.
It does happen. Like you were saying, it's not, you're surprised it's not a lot of like statistics on it. I'm sure people are just now feeling comfortable like to come forward with stuff like that.
Yeah, very true.
So, yeah, well, actually, I'm surprised about how much statistics there is about it. I mean, there is a lot of information about this. I'm just surprised that it's not more, well known. It's not a very big topic of conversation right now, even though this bill has been in the works for at least 10 years, and this concept has been around for the last 30.
Yeah, it's something that should be a trending topic. And there's Nicki Minaj talking about balls and stuff, but not stuff like this.
So
and this is important because transfer of STDs, transfer of STIs, transfer of freaking unwanted pregnancies.
Right. This violation, violation flags on all plays.
Yeah.
Well, and that's really what it is. It's like it's a betrayal. It's a violation. You're really stepping on that person's boundaries by doing this, especially if you're doing it in secret. So on behalf of all men out there, ladies, I apologize. It's some raunchy shit, but unfortunately it is the nature of the beast. And I'm very happy to announce that this bill did get passed in California. It's the first state in the US to actually do something about this. And while it doesn't allow for criminal charges to be pressed, it does allow for civil charges to be pressed, which makes that offending party liable for treatment and other costs that are incurred resulting from whatever can result from doing that process. Yes, Miss Aurora.
I got a question. So I understand that it's good, and I'm female, and I've been in situations, and yes, that's a great law to have, but personally I tend to think that maybe the law doesn't need to be in your bedroom, because here's something that's happening very, very frequently is a lot of whistleblowers all jumping on the bandwagon and going, oh, he touched me. Oh, he, sexually harassed me. Oh, he did something to me. You know what I'm saying? And they've proven that there's people that join in on these court cases, to either make it more reliable or make it less reliable. Right. Yeah. So how does that work? Then that means that every woman or man or whoever, sexual
can rebuttal something.
Right. Can rebuttal something and be like, shoot, I didn't want a pregnancy. So now I'm going to make this nigga pay. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that.
And that's where the gray area is. And it's so disheartening because people are trying to come forward with their stories. Because like you said, I'm a woman too. And that could be a hot girl pop-up or a Patreon. Right. Yeah. But it becomes so... it's sensationalized, and people have such motives to where the people with real stories try to come forward, they can't be heard, and thus we're having conversations like this. I feel the same way about the Me Too movement. There's a statute of limitations, and you should just sit within that self and say, I was in a whole phase and I should have got my life together. Right. Versus this situation really happened.
Right. And that's a big piece, because it's then anybody, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, a man. If you're gay and you're sleeping with some dude and I regret that. Right. So you could call, that he freaking pulled off and how do you prove that? You know what I'm saying?
That's the problem that I really see with, not so much a problem with this law being passed, but the one thing that I would like to see from bills of this nature, laws that, when they're getting presented is, what safety nets are there to protect against false accusations?
Right. Yeah.
What laws what's caveat is there that protects against, accidents, what's to stop
other
somebody
layers that come into that so people aren't being wrongly accused? What you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Because I mean, as much as necessary as this law is, I mean, I'm not saying for 1 minute that anybody who's gone through this or has been violated or, just gone through this does not deserve their due justice. Absolutely. Right. But that's the problem, is that separating the serious cases where this is necessary from the, what Aurora was talking about with the next day regrets, the buyer's remorse, I didn't really want to do that, so I'm going to claim, stealthing and say something. And that's even more difficult to prove in a court of law, or to prove innocence of. If somebody accuses you of that, I mean, it's going to be taken at their word. And especially with a new law being presented, they're going to look to seek, they're going to look to make examples of the first couple of cases to show the effectiveness of this law being put into place.
Yeah.
So I feel like,
go ahead, sorry.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, I feel like, a couple of these cases are going to be completely legit, and, not to say or discredit anybody or even dishearten anybody from saying, like, this is something that I am interested in. This is something that's happened to me. And I don't want to dissuade you from coming forward and, seeking your justice, looking for your day in court. I'm looking at all these other people who are just seeing this as an opportunity to cash in, see this as an opportunity to get back at somebody and, just play the petty party.
Just blackmail somebody and ruin their life because they're mad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like psychiatric evaluation and like history should come into play. Like there's so many people like they're on trial or they're a victim of something and their past comes into place. And that and it's like has nothing to do with it. But I think in this case, maybe someone's like history, your track record, like, are you a habitual liar? Like, do you have psychiatric contact already? Stuff like that. Maybe that would help kind of clear up some of those cases.
Yeah.
Clear some of them up, but not all of them. And I mean, we can sit here and argue the gray areas all night, about but the long and the short of it is that even though that this has been put into play, and like I said, it's good, it's a victory. I mean, do not take this as, throwing shade at all about, this is a momentous occasion. Women that have been suffering through this, women that haven't been able to do anything about this and have been to suffer the consequences basically on their own, are going to finally see justice. And I mean, I take my hat off to that. I mean, I applaud that. But like I said, just a quick backstory, I'm a veteran. I served in the military, and something that was becoming a huge issue in the time that I served was trying to integrate women and male Marines together, working in the same locations and everything. And of course, they're going to be intermingling. Of course, there's going to be, relationships that bloom, conversations that are had that escalate, a little further than, what the military would like. But then at the next time, it's that buyer's remorse. It's that next day saying, oh, this person took advantage of me. I had a buddy of mine, I won't name any names, but he actually had a video recording of another chick. And he was saying like, hey, and it was like, I'm recording this for posterity. Like, you are not inebriated. Like we're not partying or anything. You're a consenting party in this, activity. You want this. And she is getting undressed saying, yes, yeah, put that away. Like, what are we doing? Do you want this or not? And he's like, okay, you want to do this? And she said, yes. The next day she went and complained, and he came out, strutting his stuff. Like, I got video. I can tell you she's lying. I can tell you that I followed the law to the letter. Didn't matter, threw it out, and he still got busted for it. Yeah. So it didn't really matter anything else. So long as what she said and she had a problem with it, the Marine Corps was all about making sure that, hey, we're going to make examples of this, and we're going to follow this, to the full extent and punishment to make sure that we squash this before it becomes a bigger issue. And again, a lot of unfortunate people got caught up in that, those innocent occasions where it just went awry.
See, communication, contracts, all that.
This last safe word is here, okay? So that hopefully you don't bring the law into your bedroom.
Be the law. Don't bring the law in, okay?
Right. Tell people what's happening. Don't bring a cop in to justify a situation that should.
Everybody play by the goddamn rules.
Right. Freaking communicate. Like, I know it's weird, especially for a lot of people that are vanilla or new to this, or even new to like relationships. Communicate
our culture in general.
Right. Just even communicating with your mom, your sister, your brother, like communication, if you've never done it before, is off-putting, right? It makes you uncomfortable. But it is the best way to say what you want and desire, to figure out what the other person wants and desires. So there aren't issues like this. Okay, just imagine this for a hot second. If everyone communicated, there wouldn't be a news article that Kane is reading tonight. Okay, there just wouldn't.
Absolutely.
But go ahead, Kane. I'm sorry. That just took me on a little tangent.
That was
you're
good.
good. I mean,
topic. We may have to revisit
absolutely. In a perfect world, you know, like none of these would be necessary. Like I said, everybody would play by the rules. Everybody would do what they're supposed to. Everybody would communicate, even in these activities that a lot of people might, you know, turn their nose up at or look down upon. Doesn't matter. You know, everybody should be comfortable with themselves enough to engage in whatever activities they feel comfortable in, but follow the effing rules. I mean, there's certain rules, there's guidelines, there's things in place. And I hate to say it, but science and all of this stuff has come far enough where you're not going to get away with it. You're not going to pull one over on somebody. You're not, I mean, at this point, we're looking at the occasion where the law is letting more people off than science is. You know, science can prove without a reasonable doubt, you know, this person was here at this time engaging in this activity. And the law is, you know, I can understand where they're passing this to make sure that, you know, they tighten up as many loopholes as possible. But I think other laws really need to be looked at so that way those loopholes do get tightened up, because this right here, again, false accusations aside, what's to stop anybody from, you know, like I said, having that buyer's remorse, having that next day regret, saying, oh, you know, I really wish I had been a little bit more clear-headed, or I really wish I could take that situation back. And now there's a vehicle for them to find their own method of justice that might potentially ruin another person. When
there should be a sex trauma hotline,
right? Or call SafeWord. Call SafeWord to help you out.
What happened, baby? Tell us what happened. Okay.
Oh goodness. Well, maybe we need to open up like a coaching line, hotline. Like, hey, I need help.
Instead of calling 911, they can't help you that much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so I got another gem for us tonight, and I know we're gonna go. You ladies are gonna love this. Let me bask in it for a bit.
Should I get my shovel?
Hold on.
Don't go down the rabbit hole.
Let me get my main ready. Let me get my main ready. Hold up.
Oh, we're already in the rabbit hole. Now we're just looking for, you know, whichever shiny tunnel looks the best.
Oh goodness. Okay.
So you guys asked you guys what stealthing was, but do you guys know what? And I'm gonna try and say this without breaking. Do you ladies?
He's already breaking.
I can't help it.
Do we know what? What do we know, Kane? What do we need to know? Come on, let us
know. Are you ladies familiar with the term derfing?
What?
I've heard it before.
Derfing.
What the derf? No.
So, do you know what derfing is, Aurora?
Yes, but I'm gonna let you explain it because you probably have a better explanation than I do.
I want to know what derfing is.
It's the easiest explanation in the book.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't know if you had a textbook one. Go ahead.
All right. So derfing is, I don't want to call it a new concept. I don't want to call it, you know, the recent trend. It's just, you know, when we were talking about soaking a couple of weeks back, you know, somebody decided to go down the rabbit hole and figure out, hey, what else are Mormons doing?
Yeah.
Mormons are also engaging in an activity called derfing. Do you guys want to take a stab at what, you know, religiously acceptable sexual activity derfing is?
It's got to be an upgrade from soaking. It's a little bit less than soaking.
It's a step under. It's right underneath it. So
yeah. I'm gonna let Sasha take a stab at this because I know what it is. Give us your wildest guess. What do you think when you hear that?
Derfing. Letting your dad soak. And
yeah, goddamn.
I'm surfing. Dad is surfing. I don't know.
Yo,
He
dad
hitting
is surfing.
surfboard.
Is a derp.
Damn.
I don't. He hitting a surfboard.
I love
on
it. We
I
went
don't-
all the way left. That's what the Kink show's supposed to do. Now tell us what it really is.
Hold on. The good book says Dad's got to get a turn too to figure out if he's a good woman or not.
Well, in the book of the hood, it said it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. Book of niggalation.
I don't think the homie is your daddy. That's a wow, or his daddy. That wow. Just can you imagine? Can you freaking
No.
imagine? Like,
No,
hey,
some prima
if
nocta
you
shit?
sleep with
No.
my dad, then it's okay.
I'm
if you sleep
sure
with
it
me.
happened. I'm sure
If you
there's
sleep
dads
with
with
my
sons that are
dad.
like brothers, and dads have fantasies they want.
Oh my god.
Durfing. So what is the derf?
Yeah, what is
what's
this?
the deal on
What's
the
the
derf?
derf? What's the
Okay,
dirt
it's
on the
not
derf?
that bad. Dad ain't involved.
Okay.
Durfing is dry humping.
That's why I was like, I don't know if you have a clinical explanation.
No, there's no way to science that up. There's no way to. So the concept of durfing is actually when a man and a woman decide to engage in sexual activities while wearing their attire.
Necessary. I'm sorry. Freaking
That just
Sasha's
reminds
face.
me.
Sasha's face. She was like,
Just the term dry humping, I can't stand. Ew. It reminds me of what Bad Teachers, where Cameron Diaz and Justin Timberlake, they were like trying to hook up, but I guess he was Mormon baby because they did it all with their clothes on.
dang,
So
ain't no fun like that.
Durfing.
Durfing.
Dry humping.
All right, so
No, I'm sorry.
So-
Dry humping was fun when you were like 12, 13, when you were still kind of scared, but still a little curious. When dry humping was as close as you got to actually, getting down.
shoot, I know people that freaking dry hump and they've had sex. You know what I'm saying? Like, but they still want to dry hump because, like, for women, it's more of a clitoral stimulation, and so it's better, for some women. And for men, some men have issues with exchanging fluids, so they move to durfing.
Apparently not. Stealthing is a thing.
I'm saying that there are people that do this, like, and still do it after they've had sex. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't like the exchange that happens with a sexual encounter, so they will durf or dry hump.
All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty of this. Have you ever dry humped with somebody casually and not without a sexual experience, being had?
Oh
yeah, when I was in my 20s and going to the club.
Wait.
At the club.
Wait, let me get my laughter out. Hold on, because I want to hear this whole story. Oh, wait, what? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
In my 20s, like dry humping at the club, like I was dancing and throwing it back and stuff like that, but I wasn't still like super sexually active. So it was still like tantalizing for me to just shake it up at the club. It would turn me on, but then I get to go home, be a little teased the whole night. So I guess that would be dry humping.
So I guess that's why the Mormons call it durfing.
Wait, hold on. Wait, was that before you ever had a sexual experience?
Yes, I've had sexual experiences, not like, I wouldn't say necessarily dry humping. Like, I like to dance, so I wouldn't say that's per se dry humping.
No, I'm saying when you did the dry humping thing and it turned you on, right? Was that before you had sexual intercourse, like, or you had already had sexual intercourse and that still was something that turned you on at the club?
So before I had sex, yes. After I had sex, it didn't turn me on.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, because that's what Kim was asking. Like, if you've had sex, like, have you dry humped just like a random stranger?
No, just at the club before sex. Yeah.
Well, no. So what I'm asking is, all right, so the Mormons are engaging in this activity as a way, like, again, exposing a loophole, saying, hey, we're not technically having sex, so it's acceptable within my religion to engage in this activity with somebody. But
so that's their way of hooking up?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I still believe that there is a certain degree of lust involved, desire, and everything that the Bible was already saying was, against the rules. and trying to exploit this loophole as saying, oh, it's not sexual though, is like, no, shut the fuck up. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
That's your way
sexual.
of having a religious fuck, but
well,
friends with benefits.
Right. That's like the stories I've told where I said I did outreach in the community. We used to go and do sexual education courses, very entertaining, different courses that you would get in high school, right? And go and do these at these high schools. And the girls would come up afterwards talking about, but I'm still a virgin. I'm still a virgin. And I'm like, oh, okay, sweetie, great. But like, I've had anal, but I'm still a virgin.
Y'all need SafeWord. That's why we are here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The dry humping, there's sexual desires there. So like,
well, you're being intimate with somebody, like super intimate. We're not talking hand holdings and conversations. We're talking, you are staring into someone's eyes, having
that's the thing, like hand holding for too long and hugging for too long is against their rules. And so I don't understand how, you can't hold their hand for 20 seconds, but you can dry hump the hell out of them. Like, just go for it.
That don't make no damn sense.
Intercourse or lustful desires. They're both in the good book if that's what you're trying to look at.
Right.
It's still a lustful desire before marriage.
Right. And, you can't get around it. Like, if you go and do all that, might as well just go ahead and have sex and be like, look, this is gonna be my husband. So cool.
Well, and I can honestly hear some, young couples saying, it was like, well, we dry humped while we were soaking, but so technically we didn't. Like, nah, y'all, you guys did it.
You did it, yeah. You're intimate. You did it. You freaking, no.
Here's the thing, from a relationship standpoint, from a religious standpoint, because I'm spiritual myself. Do what you're gonna do, because at the end of the day, the higher being knows your heart. So if you're getting down and you're trying to figure yourself out, and it's not with malice or horrible intent, do what you're gonna do, but soaking and what is it, dilfing?
Dilfing would be dads. I like to.
Well, you can see where my mind's at. But yeah, at the end of the day,
like,
sin is sin. We're gonna sin. Just don't kill nobody or hurt nobody. Do it from that intent. Communicate and be nasty. That's it.
Right, but then don't sit there and call yourself a virgin or you saved yourself till marriage. I'm sorry.
It's for me, it's the purity aspect. It's like, don't claim purity after these activities and say that, you're virtuous.
You could still be virtuous and nasty in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name. Amen. Hallelujah. Okay.
What else you got?
Those were the hot topics that I brought for us tonight. We know we always have a little bit of fun with that.
All right. I love it. I love it. So we're bringing you a lot of information tonight. The video was on kink versus fetish. All right. So a lot of people tend to think that kinks and fetishes are the same thing and use them pretty interchangeably, right? Now, there's a difference between the two. A kink is a kind of like a catch-all term that describes non-traditional sexual behaviors and practices. Okay. So it's like an umbrella. Think of it as the umbrella. Everything falls under a kink. Hence the reason why when we did what is a kink? In my little piece, I was like, some people may consider kissing to be very kinky, where other people are like, no, what's kinky is knife play and medical play. So it's a broad range. So if you have that many people sitting there going, oh, well, this is a kink, this is a kink. Kink is the umbrella. Okay.
Right.
So anything that falls under non-traditional sexual and intimate desires, practices, or fantasies is considered a kink. So typically we say that a kink is an experience that enhances a sexual encounter.
But I mean, I feel like the same can be said for fetish, and because it can.
Yeah.
But the difference is that a fetish is something that has to be there in order for you to even, achieve arousal. So back in the day, they used to use the term fetish as sexual disorder. So if somebody had a fetish, they were committed for having a fetish, and because it was really just like a localized, a very specific stimulus that got the person aroused. And so if back in the day, man, if you were different, you were screwed. So that was just a rough
committed
time to be in.
Freaking shock therapy, the whole nine.
I mean, it even goes back further than that. I mean, like Black Plague era, all those doctors and everything. I mean, if you engage in something other than traditional, missionary positions, and, somebody else found out about it, they could commit you, they could call it crimes against the crown, crimes against religion, crimes against the church, and commit you for having some affections for something that everybody else deemed abnormal or immoral. So even today, like even in certain studies, some scientists, psychologists will refer to a fetish as a what do they call it? Erotic target error.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Uh-huh.
And so, but they kind of use this term, and like from what I can understand of it, so shoot me if I'm wrong, but do you guys remember the old cartoons when like Cupid would get a hold of Bugs Bunny, shoot him with an arrow, and then miss with the second arrow and hit like a table or a chair, and now Bugs Bunny was all infatuated with that table and chair? So that is more or less what they're describing when it comes to an erotic target error, is that for some reason that they're trying to discover is that your brain is stimulated by either an inanimate object or a certain activity that is specific enough that it's the only thing that gets you going.
Right. So so a fetish is something you need to release.
Yes.
Right.
Where a kink is not necessarily something you need to release.
Yeah. Their kinks are something that someone likes to do with themselves, or they need to continuously do it with the partner over and over again. But it's considered a kink is something considered outside of mainstream acts. Typically more erotic or sexual encounters. But yeah, think of it as something that you need to set your scene as opposed to something you want to set your scene. A kink is something you would like, and a fetish is something that you need.
Yeah.
And it's important that we tell you guys that you need to consider something kinky as something small, like it's a small place to start with kink. So say for instance, it's toys or spanking, but that's pretty standard for others if you need that to like release.
So it's pretty
like subjective, like
it's
Aurora was
subjective.
saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you would like to add those toys, then it's fun. It's not a necessity.
Right. So long story short, a kink is something that you like, right? We've already said that. And a fetish is something that you need. So for example, if you like being choked during sex, right? That's kinky. But if you need to be choked to even get in the mood or to finish, that's a fetish.
Yeah. So say for instance, like if you hear your neighbors getting it on, it turns you on. But if you have to have that interaction or have that going on just to get aroused, then now that's the fetish territory, because you have to hear your neighbors doing it just to spark the idea of getting in the mood.
Yeah. That would be a fetish. That'd be more of a fetish.
All right. So you know how we do it here at SafeWord. We always ask each other a couple of questions and get our opinions on some stuff. So let's not deviate from that tried but true method of dispersing information to all of you guys. So
questions.
Some of the most popular questions that come up when discussing this topic is it possible to have a kink and a fetish at the same time?
Is it possible to have a kink and a fetish? Yeah, definitely. I would say that it is, because, okay, let's say you have that's a very difficult question, because I mean, yes, you can. Okay, you can have a kink towards, like, let's say fishnet, right? Okay. You like the way fishnet is on a woman's leg or a man's leg or whoever's leg, right? Or an arm or something like that. You have fishnet.
Even your own.
Right. Or your own. And then a fetish, I mean, you could take it a step further and be like, I like the way it pulls off, and the contrast between the fetish and the fishnet and the skin. Yeah, the pulling aspect would be a fetish, and some people get off to that. But I mean, you could totally have a kink towards something and then end up needing it to get off, right?
Even like aggression, like if you're a switch, sometimes you want that.
You're making faces, King.
What?
I know, right?
Nothing. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I'm queen switch, so I go both ways, but it is definitely possible to have a kink and a fetish at the same time.
Right.
It definitely is layers to it. Of course, me being a switch, always a bunch of layers, but yeah, it's absolutely possible. You can want to be choked, but it depends on the scene or, whatever you're feeling like.
Lord.
What? Why are you so opposed to being
I know. What do you have to
exploratory?
say, Mr. Kane? You asked us a question and then don't like our answers. What the hell?
Oh, man.
Jesus, sweet Lord.
Mhm. What
Okay,
you got to say?
Mr.
since
We
you're
just keep
like,
going back
I'll
to
let you be
choking,
in
and it's
charge.
just like, damn.
She's like, I like to be choked. What?
Choke, spank,
Like,
it
we
all
are learning
depends on
some
the
we are
scene.
learning some very key information tonight.
For Miss Lyncher. Miss Lyncher wants to tell you.
Training is working. Don't know what to tell y'all. You're
I
going to see
love
some
it.
metamorphosis out this little cocoon, okay?
So let's ask you the same question, Kane. Do you think that you can have a kink and a fetish at the same time?
Yes, absolutely. So, and one of the examples that I was going to give is that you can have like a role play kink, like seeing your partner dressed up, and then still have like a foot fetish where you like your partner to dress up as a certain character, but you're still gonna worship their feet. So you can have them dressed up like Princess Leia, Cleopatra, like famous women in history, or just one of your favorite characters, and still have an infatuation or a targeted desire towards one area.
Okay.
So
fantasy, fetish, kink, all of those have very interchangeable parts, and it's okay to celebrate all the parts that you like to explore.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Just communicate.
Get consent.
Miss Aurora, do you have a question for us tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, you touched on the role playing aspect of it. So, I mean, let's get the cast's opinion on something. Okay. Do you think, and I've kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you think that a kink can then become a fetish? We got a lot of head nods. Break it down more than that.
You go, King. You go.
So yes, I think that for the most part, most fetishes start off as kinks. So I think it starts off with like an attraction to something, and then there's like a desire to try, and then there's experimentation with consent. And if you like it, then you continue engaging in that activity often enough, and then all of a sudden it becomes like a staple that you have to do in order to finish. So then it would become a fetish at that point.
Okay, real quick. Roy says, so shouldn't all fetishes be kinks? So based off definition, because kink is something you like, and if it helps you get off, like to love cookies, but you have to also like it. I'm reading it exactly how it's wrote. Sorry, Roy. So shouldn't all fetishes be kinks? So he's asking, like, are all fetishes then kinks? Yes.
They start off as,
No, all kinks are fetishes, but all fetishes aren't kinks.
Aren't kinks, right.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so you can still fetishize something, but so like for an example, a quickie, right? So you can have a quickie, but if you're not able to finish because you can't get the boots off or the shoes off, or you can't do something else, like then you have a fetish. But if you're capable of having a quickie and just like, hey, 2 minutes, wham bam, done, and you and your partner were able to achieve orgasm, then you don't really have a fetish that as much as you don't have a kink as much as you have a fetish.
Right. And I mean, we can take it to even something more basic and something that we talked about during our kink of the month last month, right? Our kink of the month was foot fetish. So if someone has a foot fetish, they could totally be, fine with like seeing your feet and that's a kink, or seeing it in a pair of shoes, that's a kink, but they may need to, I don't know, put your feet in their mouth in order to get off, and then that would be a fetish. You know what I'm saying? They need that. They need the touch or the smell or the sensation.
Or finishing,
right?
Yeah, or finishing in a certain position. So whatever kink or fetish that person has is attained. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. So I know Sasha's got another question for us.
Yes. Okay. So another question for you guys. Do you think you can outgrow a fetish? Like we've talked about targeted and how it is to target it and how specific it has to be. And we use words like necessary and need, but do you think you can lose touch with your fetish? Even though you felt like you needed it or it was something you really desired, can you outgrow that scene or that space?
Yeah, I definitely think that you can. I actually read something about this. So, you know, if someone takes the fantasy too far, or they know about your fetish and they are consistently putting it out there, right? Mm-hmm. And they're just like, here, feet. Here's a picture of my feet. Here's a feet, and a feet, mm-hmm. and a hey, and now I'm posing with my feet, and hey, you want my feet in your mouth? Like, yeah, I think that could totally turn somebody off from their original fetish. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not presented in a way
to where it's fun anymore.
Yeah.
So I think some fetishes, I mean, it's possible, but others, I think so. I mean, man, I wonder if we could actually get away with this. That would almost separate them between like a subtle fetish
and an extreme fetish,
or like an extreme mm-hmm. fetish. So mm-hmm. I'm thinking like knife play.
Right.
So
okay.
knife play
like
might be something
like
that, you know, you fetishize about and that is necessary to have for you to, you know, achieve arousal and everything else like that. But say either you get seriously hurt one time or, you know, like you get rushed to the emergency room and then you don't want to do that anymore. I think that's an example of when like an extreme fetish you kind of get turned off by. Mm-hmm. But speaking as somebody with a foot fetish, like I don't think that it's anything that I personally would probably ever grow out of unless I had enough negative experiences to be like, all right, at this point, I'm just scared that I'm going to have another bad experience. So I'm going to abstain or stay away from that part.
So quick question. Would you say that your foot fetish is something that it just needs to be around? It's not something you need to be engaged with. Does that make sense? So, like if you had nice feet and someone willing to indulge in your fetish, but it's not a focus, you wouldn't get tired. But if your partner knew you were getting off on their feet and they made an issue about it, does that make sense?
So yeah, kind of. I mean, like if they were to all of a sudden have an issue with it, I mean, I don't think that I would be like, okay, well, this is done, you know, nice knowing you, peace out, or anything like that. It would definitely, again, it takes communication. It takes talking about it. And if it ended up being something that they weren't willing to engage in anymore, then I definitely think that would cause some strain in a relationship because I do have a foot fetish. So if you're not willing to engage in that with me, then it becomes a one-sided battle with, you know, like you're getting what you want, but I'm not getting what I want. So
yeah.
Eventually I'm going to become unhappy, you know, just with our sexual relationship. And that's going to seep into the rest of the relationship.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that it takes a while though. I could imagine that it couldn't be a quick process.
Yeah, no, not for a foot fetish.
I don't know, unless someone does something that makes you fall out of connection with it, right? So I read a couple posts like that where, and let me pull it up real quick. So, you know, just somebody asking that same kind of question through Reddit, right? Have you ever outgrown a fetish or a kink? And if so, what was it and what were their causes? And people, you know, like people were responding and things like that. And I'm not going to go through all the responses, but I mean, like I was saying earlier, yes, if it's pushed in your face, if it's presented in a way and it's always in your face. I mean, how most fetishes, at least from my experience, most fetishes are somewhat taboo within the social constructs of society. So a lot of times within my experiences with fetishes, it's that taboo nature that makes it a fetish, you know? It's like ooh, that's naughty. Ooh.
Well, it adds the excitement to it.
Yeah, it adds the excitement to it, right? So if it's always being presented to you and it's easily accessible, it's just like dating. If you're easily accessible, you become boring. Okay. You become boring because you're just there.
Because
right.
It's nothing to earn. It's just always there.
Right.
But speaking of Reddit, I read a story of someone stating that they weren't really into a certain body part being worshipped and their partner really liked it. So it made them feel comfortable, but it became an ongoing thing, an ongoing focus, whether they were just like being intimate or just in their day-to-day life. So her knowing that it became a fetish was like a huge turnoff, even when they weren't in scene, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like I could see how it could be.
And we'll get to that piece in a minute. We're gonna break that down here in a second.
Sorry.
No, you're jumping ahead. No, that's cool. Like it actually fits, but you're jumping ahead because like that gets a little bit deeper. But go ahead, King, because I know you got something to add to this. I can see your face.
No, at this point I'm kind of lost.
I'm sorry.
No, we're good.
Well, you have a question, yes?
Because we're comfortable with this point.
I just had the next question.
Okay.
Which was, everybody wants to know, and everybody that, like we said, SafeWord's here to give you guys the information. We'll answer all of your guys' questions, no matter how, like ordinary they sound. And so one of the most basic questions that everybody always asks is it okay to have a kink or a fetish?
Yeah, I mean, hello. Well, why would we say no? We're a kink page. Yes, it's okay for you to have a kink or a fetish. Please have them all.
Yes.
Please have them all. Then contact me with all of your stories so that I can, relish in the beauty of exploration.
Reach out in your desire. Would love to guide you through them. They're okay and they are normal. And you got them, and you just ain't talking about them. We are here to talk to you about them.
As long as you're not harming yourself or others, I don't think there's an issue. I really don't. I mean, here's a good question. I'm going to break it up just for a second. Crew, if it's not harming yourself or others, do you think it's wrong to have a kink or fetish?
No, as long as, like we said, you're communicating and you have consent.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, here's the deal. As long as there's attention to safety, consent, mutual enjoyment, and no one is exploited, right? Then it would be considered a healthy sexual behavior, no matter how extreme. I mean, freaking BDSM has the works, okay, and stuff that doesn't even have names yet. There's been times where I've been in a dungeon where they're like, I want you to do this, this, and this. Is there a name for that? And I'm like, no, but we gonna play. Let's figure this out. We gonna play, So, I mean, I think that then it would be considered a healthy sexual behavior, no matter how extreme. Now we can say that as long as all of those boxes are checked, you have consent, you're communicating, all these things that we talk about on a daily basis if you watch our show, right, Miss Sasha?
Absolutely. Now, if it violates any of those, then it may be a huge problem, especially if it's something you can't control anymore. It's just the beast is hungry and it's eating every time the play scene is on. Yes. So kinks and fetishes should never cause emotional distress. Let me reiterate, kinks and fetishes should never cause emotional distress.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
No emotional distress in Jesus' name. And it shouldn't create any issues in other aspects of your relationship, your day-to-day grocery shopping, communicating through text throughout your day. It should not. Your kink should not affect your day-to-day life. So as long as you are aware of your sexual interests and you think about how they affect yourself, and not just yourself, but as well as how they affect others, then you should be free to explore anything and everything that you're seeing or your sex life has to offer. Just remember, you guys always have to have consent.
And we talk about this all the time. Have consent, have consent, have consent. So yeah, it shouldn't be, breaking the law to exercise your kink. It really shouldn't. Like all these social constructs, this is why we're here. We're trying to break free of those social constructs and make it okay to speak on these things and explore, right? So public acts are pretty much outlawed everywhere, but it's not like you're actively seeking to make a scene or draw attention most of the time. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people that are trying to make a scene and draw attention, and that's their kink, that's their fetish, whatever. But at least in my experience, you know, it hasn't been that direction.
No.
So I really wanted to take an opportunity to read an excerpt from this really cool article that I found, and we'll post the link in the description. But
oh, okay, cool.
When it comes to kinks and fetishes, there was this piece where they said that the principle of sexual health focuses on aspects of healthy sexual values rather than judging the acts themselves. And so again, healthy sexual values is that consent, communication, nobody's being exploited, all of those. So as long as you're, you know, falling within that realm, there's nothing that's taboo.
Right.
But the second that, again, you deviate from that is when it's still not necessarily a bad thing. You're not a terrible person. You just need a little bit of help to to regain a little bit of control over these situations rather than letting them run and dictate your life.
Right.
So,
right.
And that's what the test out to us. There's so many outlets. That test is so helpful.
Right. There's a ton of outlets. There's other YouTubers. I mean, I don't want to knock any other YouTuber that's out here repping the good word about kink. I open your world to kink. Okay. If you don't want to reach out to us, reach out to somewhere else. But the description will be in the description box below. You can figure out how to contact us if you have questions. We are all very educated in this. Okay. Kane is a step away from having his psychiatry degree. I am an psychology degree. I am an intimacy coach, and I have been for about 12 years. And Miss Sasha has been a relationship coach for over 10. So
yeah, here's
the deal. Reach out, ask questions. No question that you have to ask is going to be so crazy that we haven't heard it before. Believe me. I've heard it all. I worked in a dungeon. I heard it all. So there's nothing that you could reach out to me and be like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. No, I'm going to help you. Okay. So, I mean, if you have questions, you're lost, you're confused. I mean, Kane's going to give you the breakdown, the psychology of it, and then break down how you feel about it. Okay. Miss Aurora going to
we try to cite our research. We try to drop those too. Like Miss Aurora said, there's a bunch of great websites and other creators out there expressing their same feelings about expressing themselves. One site that I just found on YouTube is called Cut. They definitely break down a bunch of situations and different engaging scenarios. So if you want to see other people outside of us that are showing you what this looks like in everyday life and outside of it, Cut. There's one. There you go.
Cut, and then what's the safe word? WATTS. Safe. So that page is awesome. It's ran by two gay guys, and it's a daddy and a sub, and they go through all of it. They're funny. So like if you wanted to reach out to them, I don't know how they respond. But you can reach out to us and we'll respond right away.
Gotta build that community, all-inclusive community. Whatever you got going on, there's somebody to identify with it. You know, that's why we're here with the
and we'll put the links to what we mentioned tonight in the description box below. Hopefully we'll be collaborating soon. All right, Mr. Kane.
So we're coming to that point where the next topic of conversation, we're going to have to take over to the Patreon. So everybody, you know, start making your way that way. And, you know, we're going to be getting into a little bit more graphic detail and a little bit more explicit of questions. Let's just call it that.
Yes.
And we're going to do that over on the Patreon. So we'll give you guys a small intermission to start getting over there. But for tonight, you know that we love you guys. You know that we can't help but, you know, be there for you guys and just help you guys out. It's what we're here for. So learning to embrace your own unique erotic behavior and threshold is important for your sexual health.
Yes.
So learn to accept your kinks and fetishes, practice them responsibly, communicate with your partner, and never forget, the whole reason why you're doing this is to have fun.
And if you watch the beginning of this, I'm going to cut it off here shortly, but if you watch the beginning of this, there is an audition coming up for that 4th seat for the man, the other man on the group. You do need to have experience, but check out our social media pages for what you can submit, because even if you're out of state, you can submit a 2-minute video for what's requested within the flyer. So that'll be posted all next week. Guys, make sure that you're, paying attention. If you're out of state, if you are within the Phoenix metro area, there will be a location held next weekend for auditions. So
2 weekends.
Oh yeah. 2 weekends, not what next weekend, the 13th of November. There will be auditions held. So make sure that you guys are getting your kink articles together, practicing them, figuring out how you can be a fun, exciting host. Please have experience and be willing to speak on sex in an educational manner. But yes, as Kane said, that's all we have for tonight. Yes, Kane, take us out one more time. I'm sorry.
No problem. All right, everybody. So it's important to remind everybody that tonight is brought to you in association let's try that again.
Let's try that again.
It's important to remind everybody that tonight is brought to you in association with Support District Radio Network and Support District Television. That is all for SafeWord tonight. Like I said, migrate over to the Patreon if you guys want to hear the rest of tonight's topics of conversation and get a little bit of a deeper dive and a more explicit look into your SafeWord cast. So always remember,
uncensored.
Holiday weekend coming up. Halloween's going to be a lot of fun. I know a lot of you guys are going to be getting down and dirty because it's going to be way too damn hot to see your partner in that costume and keep your hands off of them.
So, play around. I love it. Let us know your stories. Reach out.
Message us your Halloween stories. Okay.
We'll keep you anonymous. So feel free to message us. And if you want to send us some of your more, sexually erotic costumes, kanemarcos.safeword@gmail.com. Please.
Maybe next year we'll run a costume contest next year.
Oh yeah, we've got that in the works. Costume contests are going to be.
Show us your costumes. Show us your activities. We'd love to see it. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to talk about it. So bring it on to the SafeWord.
And here's the deal: if you share your costume this year, I'll put you in the running for next year, and there will be a big prize. So I suggest y'all start dropping some Halloween photos to SafeWordVideo@gmail.com. It will be in the description box below.
Drop them. We may give you guys gifts because we have raffles and shine. But you guys may get something out of it. So please subscribe, share, tell a friend, drop your costume.
Hit that bell. All right, we out of here.
All right, so for the 3rd time tonight, this is SafeWord. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will catch you guys next week. Stay safe, have a great weekend, have fun, and as always, remember your SafeWord.